So let me introduce Artem. He will tell you our assumptions.
So on these assumptions, we have based our answer on the case. First of all, we need to tell about the CFA designation of Roman, because it is one of the main factors that we had to choose. The second one is his experience. He had to be experienced, and then we made such an assumption. We called it Roman knows better. It means that he built more fundamental analysis than the manager, and that's why he built a high quality model. Next slide, please. So now Yaroslav will tell you about ethical decision-making framework in more detail.
Yeah, I'd like to tell a few words about our framework. It's ICRR decision-making framework. This framework consists of 4 parts. It's identification, consideration, action, and reflection. In addition, each of these parts contains 2, 3, or 4 elements, and these elements can explain this framework in more detail. Our solution of the case is based on this framework. Now the question number 1, and Artem will give the answer.
Here we have the situation when Roman ignores the recommendations of the manager and gives to the clients his own interpretation, his own investment recommendations. That's why we need to tell that his analysis built on the good principles, and because he had went through all quality control procedures, and addition, our clauses tell that he has a huge experience. Secondly, about ethical principles. First principle that have been mentioned, it is standard 3A, knowledge of law. Why? Because we have a different responsibilities of the analyst in different countries. For example, in Europe, MiFID II governs the rules of their activities. And the second standard is about the disclosure of the risks on which have been built these investment recommendations to the client. And actually, there we have a conflict of opinion between between Roman and the manager. Secondly, about the influences, we have pressure from the manager side, and it depends on the authority of the manager. Secondly, we have an alternative action when a manager provided his own research, and that research was built on the reasonable basis. And in this situation, we will have 2 actions. First action is, according to the standard 3, loyalty, prudence, and care, and accepting all our clauses, Roman made the right decision. And in the second case, when manager made his own research, Roman may add this opinion to his report, but only if it has a reasonable basis. Now the reflection, and there we had to say that firstly, interest of client had to be on the first place, and in the future we need to consider all the reasonable aspects of investment recommendations. Now Serhii will tell you about the second question.
In this question, we see the fact that Roman didn't change the report, and after a few months, his report was failed, and the clients that following the report also lost their money. So we think that here is no violation in case of initial actions, but we think that here is violation with standard 3, especially about changing the report and making the updating of the report. As we know, like according to standards 3 and 4, Roman has a duty to clients and to employer. So in this case, there are 3 sides that are involved with. First of all, it's client because they lost money. Secondly, it's employer because this report has harmed company's reputation. And in the end, it's analyst because he did a wrong decision. So we think that here is no ethical violation because of he didn't predict market trends, and here is several actions that he should do. First of all, about his initial action, he should do the same as in the question 1, as Artem told you, and in case of report and in case of relationship with employer. But in order to, we know that market has changed, and the analyst, he should update the information according to standards 3C sustainability and 3B fair dealing. He should update the report, and he should provide fair access to all his clients. And what did we learn from this case? First of all, that ethical behavior does not depend on future market trends. Did you predict it or not? It's just a case of your professionalism and circumstances that was in this time. And also we think that Roman has strong ability to defend his opinion, and it will help him in the future to follow standards in crisis situations. And now Yaroslav will tell you about our solution about question number 3.
Yes, I'd like to tell you briefly about the situation when Roman reassesses the report due to manager's advice. First of all, I'd like to tell you about ethical principles that may be connected to this case. It is principle 3A, 3B, 3D, and 4A. Most of it is about ethical behavior connected with clients and with employers. Also, in this case, Roman has a conflict of interest between client's interests and interests of the company. Next slide, please. In this situation, we see a strong influence from the manager side. Yeah. In this case, I think that Roman have an alternative. He can provide his own report based on the reasonable circumstances, but mention that his manager has other opinion. In the action part, I'd like to say that Roman considered to follow the opinion of the manager, but as I stated before, he should or disclose his own decision about initial report and mentioned about another one of the manager, or stated the new report that was prepared both with manager. And about reflection, what is our conclusion about this case? We think that every analyst should act fairly and be aware in own opinion, even if its opinion not the same as the manager's one. And the next question we will introduce Kata.
Yes, so the audience, we want to introduce our course of actions. We called it them 6 best first steps, and the first one is to take into account manager's recommendations. Manager recommendation. Manager has it's normal that manager has more experience and he acknowledges in this sphere. So we should review our report. Next is evaluate all parameters of the model. We according to the standard 5A. We should to provide a qualitative model, so checking the parameters is important. The next one is materials rules and checking suitability. This consists of if there are materials, we should eliminate them. If not, we should eliminate the conflict of opinion by adding alternative opinion of our supervisor. In a report, and checking suitability is our modernized model is suitable for the prior client's investment strategy. And the last two is about.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
You can ask Please.
You have 10 minutes to read.
Okay. First question? Go ahead.
Yes, my question is that besides these steps that you propose for MON to take, do you think that if the manager insists on publishing this and there is no other way and he still believes that the recommendation is right, what would be basically his, do you think other actions than this would be appropriate for him to take? Maybe up to disassociation from this activity or stopping covering the stocks, quitting, etc.
Okay, I think that firstly we have had to mention that in this situation we have unethical activities of the manager, and so analyst will be involved in such unethical activities. And if he knows that this is unethical, so he violates the standards of ethics. That's why even if he knows that this is unethical and there is no way out, he had to dissociate himself from these actions.
Would you consider correct to find someone in the company to consult, to have advice from someone third in the party, and who would be this other side to find a solution for the analyst?
Also, we can ask a help of CFA analysts, people who know the rules and have really good enough experience in this sphere by eliminating some problems and some cases with ethic. So it's normal that we can ask for help.
And as something to add, as was mentioned in the case, like this report was checked by inner department of the company, and we in our assumption we did assumption that this quality is this model is quality. So in case of model, we can be aware that this model is quality, but in case of actions, we can ask some, for example, CFA other members, or ask CFA Institute how to treat in this situation.
Great. You mentioned in your report about a conflict of interest between the analyst and the client. Did you talk a little bit about that conflict of interest?
Yes, I think that is my mistake is a conflict of interest between client and analyst. Sorry for it, okay? The interest of client is to gain the maximum profit of investment, yes? But in our case, was mentioned that analyst was that analyst should that manager said Romans to change this report, but Romans thinks that his report is good, is reasonable, and if it's my case, if Roman change his report, he more think about yourself, about himself future career, not about the interest of clients.
Okay. Thank you.
One more question. Can you please provide more details about your proposal to add opinion of the manager to the report? Don't you think how these actions may influence the clients? They receive a report with opinion of the analyst and opinion of the manager. How do you think this affects the clients?
I can answer. I think it's normal because every people may have his own decision about some situation, and if his opinion not so opposite, it's correct to mention it in a report. As I read in the standards, it's appropriate for reports to mention the vision of the analyst, and mentions that manager may something more may not opposite the.
Yeah, but there have to be a remark about that fact that analyst doesn't agree with the opinion of the manager. It is appropriate.
And for clients, it will be good because he will have like as minimum two different vision of the same situation. If if manager's supervisor opinion will have some facts, and imagine you are a client and you have a report which two different opinions, and each of them has some proven facts. And it gives you a bigger perspective to make investment decision.
And it shows the fair treatment to the client.
If the analyst would decide to take this course of action, not confront the manager, at the same time not publish his recommendation and just wait for a month or a couple of months until market turns around, maybe then quickly issue something, would that violate any or raise any ethical issues?
I think that in this situation he will violate standards because he has an agreement with the client, and I know that in US there is a little different situation with the responsibilities of analysts as in Europe, and a lot of clients in America pay more money to have an ability to communicate with the analyst, and he tells them the terms in which this recommendation had to be, and it is the sense of investment recommendation that it is limited in time, so they need the answer.
So, suppose you are Roman. You've issued this buy report on this bank, and a month later, the stock of the bank declines by 50%. What would you say to me, the client who had taken your recommendation and bought the stock, and now I've lost money?
Actually, it's pretty same situations that in question number 2.
Okay, but now you're talking to the client who followed what's your advice.
We guess that Roman should follow standards 3A, loyalty to client, and 3B, like fair dealing, and he should explain to the client why did it happen, like what the reason was in the previous that caused such market trends. And after I explain it like to Roman this all facts, I will give him future change to report and future prediction. What should he do in the next months, for example?
And actually, when he gave this recommendation to his client, he disclosed that situation, that the high risk of these actions.
Anything else? Anything else do you want to say in the last?
We want to show you a survey.
Our survey.
Yes.
We did briefly survey in our market and ask questions that are related with this case, and question number
Two and third, they are quite opposite to our solution, so it's a really surprised results. But others are close to our thoughts, our same thoughts.
And three.
Opinion, yes. You can see that we have not divided our answers on black and white, so no and yes. We have give chance to our representations to make a choose to understand the violation of the market and violation of this and maybe difficulty of the situation. And you can see the questions and answers also. Maybe some
And
questions about
in this
this.
survey were representatives from the CFA members and the ACCA members. They were from different spheres, but related with each other. It was sales, trade,
Sales, trade,
investment, and audit. Yes.
Audit, yes.
Okay, great.
Thank you for your attention.
Thank
so much.
you very much.